Okay, welcome to Ad Hoc memberships, which I wish they would change the name of memberships to call them groups, because basically that is what an ad hoc is. It is a group. So you can put a group together for your purpose. So there is not necessarily a specific training manual or a procedural checklist that we're going to go through, but I did want to show you some resources that you can use. The first one, of course, these are all in the Learning Center. So the first one is in the Getting Started section of student information. So if I go into Getting Started, it is in the Helpful Hints. And then, um, is it in Helpful Hints? No, where is it at? It is in Getting Started, right here in the Getting Started section. Getting Started. And then in there, there is one that is called Maintain Ad Hoc Memberships. So this is going to show you how to set them up and how to edit them. And of course, we will go through that. The next one is in the EMIS guide because some of these things that you can do with an ad hoc membership, you might not be the one that is going to specifically do this. Sometimes it is your EMIS person that will be doing that, and they will be updating some of these things that could be done with the ad hoc update. So this one is called Ad Hoc Updates, and it kind of breaks down each of the areas where you can update in bulk or a group of students. And then the last one is the Ad Hoc Updates Guide. It is 38 pages long. We are not going to go through all of this because, again, a lot of these, you might not be the person doing this. This might be your EMIS person, or if you are the EMIS person, you might not be doing some of the things that your building secretaries might be doing. So it's kind of a mix of both of them. But this ad hoc updates guide also does not talk about creating and editing the actual ad hoc memberships. So we are going to start with that, with setting up our ad hoc memberships. So to get started, we have these things called ad hoc memberships. Well, what is an ad hoc? And I really had to look up the meaning of what ad hoc meant, and it means when necessary or when needed. And that is basically what an ad hoc membership or an ad hoc group is. So you are creating a specific group for a purpose. So, and this purpose is temporary. It's not something that is permanent. So, think about your JVS kids. You might be creating an ad hoc group for those JVS students. The 10th graders that, have been accepted, for their 11th grade school year. So, yes, that you want them to be in the group, but it's not permanent. They might decide to come back at semester break. They might decide to come back for their senior year. They might do half a day, whatever it might be. So, an ad hoc group slash membership is something that is created for a specific person purpose. The nice thing is our memberships, our students can be in multiple memberships or multiple groups. So, you might have a student that is a JVS student, but they also might participate in sports. So you might have an ad hoc membership for winter wrestling because they're a part of the wrestling team. So, first, let's look at creating our memberships. So, this is under My Account, and we have our ad hoc memberships. So, this is where we're officially creating. Now, when you look at this screen, it might be completely blank. So, this screen is going to show any private memberships that are active only. So, when I am looking at these are memberships that I've created, and only I can see these. Then if I click here where it says public and private, you will see some additional ones because the additional ones are such as Snow White, and we're going to use this one as an example today. You will see that now this becomes available because I've made it public. So anybody else that has access to the TCCSA high school, they also have access to see this membership. So this is great to make it public for things like our JVS students. So our JVS students that are going to be going to the JVS. Maybe I'm going to add a student. Well, I want the other building secretary to know that, or I want the guidance counselor to know that. I'm going to put them in the group, and anybody that has access, because I've made it public, can now see these. So, how do we create from scratch? So, there's this big green button that says add a new ad hoc membership. So, we're going to click on that. And there's a couple things that we're going to look at. The first thing is naming it. So, when you name it, this is something that's going to be important to you. So, for example, maybe we're starting to get the acceptance for our JVS students. So, our 26-27 JVS students. Okay. Now, notice by default, it does make it active. Perfect. That means it's available. If I uncheck that, that means it's not available for use. So I want to make sure if I'm going to create this, I want it to be active. The second thing is by default, it also makes it private. And again, that means that only I can see this. Well, if I want other people to be able to see this, such as maybe my guidance counselor or the building secretary, maybe I'm the guidance secretary, I want to uncheck it so it makes it public so other people can see this. So there are several ways that we can find our students and we can get our students added into an ad hoc membership. You will first see here are our search modes. Okay. And if ever you don't see these, because maybe you went into a previous ad hoc membership, you can just click where it will say show search criteria and you would click on that. If I click on hide, you'll see that this area is going to disappear. Okay. I am going to just save this and leave for a second because if I look, okay, so now my new ad hoc membership has been created, 26-27 JVS students. Okay, it is public because I have this checked. It is available for the public to see. Okay. The other thing is when you are working with an ad hoc membership, you can never technically delete one. So if I uncheck, and I'm warning you, this is going to be a mess. When I uncheck this, okay, you will see that there are a lot of different ad hocs in here that are inactive because I truly can't delete these. So if I click on this, it's really not deleting it, it's just keeping it inactive. So you can always look at the inactive ones that you have. You can click on one, such as maybe this one, this Career Center applicants, and then maybe you want to start adjusting it for the students that got accepted. So if I click on my pencil at any time, it allows me to come back in and edit these. So if I want this one to be active, I can just click and check for it to be active, hit save, and now that one is now active, wherever it might be, Career Center applicants. Okay, so that's kind of how those work, creating them, saving them, and then of course going back in to edit them. So if I go back in to edit my 26-27 JVS students, okay, I want to show my search. Right now I have no students, so there are no records to display. So you'll notice that my three areas that I can search with, my search criteria, my student ID, and my existing memberships. Notice that my search criteria looks very similar to my advanced search. So if you're used to using the advanced search in student information, this is very similar. So I can search by student's last name. I can search social security number does not work any longer. They are going to take that out of the system. So you cannot search for that. You can search by a street name. So if maybe a street is being closed and you want to search by a street name. So if I want to search by Eagle Pass, I can search by that, click on my search, and it's going to find any students that meet that criteria. So you can see all these students live on Eagle Pass. So maybe because of construction, we're going to have to, adjust what bus that they're going to work on. So they're going to be in a group of their own. Okay. So that provides me some of the information. You will see these little check boxes just like you see next to these boxes in the advanced search. These are my wildcards. So if I don't know how to spell a name, so I'm like, oh, you know what? How do I spell Corey Anders' last name? I can put in A-N, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to put in a wildcard and hit search. And it's going to find any students that have AN in their last name. Okay, so again, that is my wildcard. You'll see not everyone has a wildcard. My additional information, you can search by a grade level. So if you are looking for your 10th graders that are going to be going to the JVS next year, you can search for just 10th graders. Be careful when you're working on this because it does still store that previous search information. So that would only be looking for 10th graders with AN in their last name. Okay, so I'm going to remove that as I move on. So if I'm looking for just 10th graders, I can click on search and my 10th graders are going to populate. Now remember, I'm in a demo database, so all these students and student IDs are fake. We're working in our test district. Okay. So you can look for homerooms if you're at the elementary level. If you have homerooms assigned, you can search for a specific homeroom and pull up those kids. If you're a larger district and you have multiple counselors, so maybe you want to create an ad hoc for just students that you are dealing with. So you're going, if you know, your students have that counselor assigned to them, you can find those students that way. Miscellaneous. You have some things in here. So this is great, especially for our students maybe that are at the JVS. So you want to search for students with a specific EMIS situation. So maybe the students that are attending the JVS full time. Okay. So you can do different things like that. Okay. Or you can put in the sent to IRN, the IRN of your JVS district. Okay. If you want to go specifically by a disability condition, most of our districts do not use programs. Most of the time, that would be for our JVSs. If there's a specific program that they want to create, but typically we don't use those at home districts. This is nice that we can search by course sections. So if we're looking at our course sections, we can maybe pick out our CCP kids. So we want to see just CCP students. So I can say, okay, oops, and I still have my 10th grader selected. See, I just told you guys that those stay and I forgot to remove it. So course section, if I want to find my CCP classes. So whatever CCP class I might have, and then I can search by a specific, if I have multiple sections, I can search by multiple sections or pick that section and then hit search and I can see my students that are enrolled in those classes. And then I don't know how much this is used, but you can create ad hocs based on assessment information. So this might be nice for students maybe that did not pass a specific end of course exam. So maybe you want to pull in those kids that have not passed Algebra 1 yet, and then maybe you're going to pull in those basic or limited based on their performance level. So of course that information would have to be in the system in order for you to be able to pull that information in. So I am actually going to go back out, make sure all my filters are cleared out, and look at my 27 JVS students, show my search criteria, and then we're going to start looking. So I'm going to start with some of my 10th graders. So I'm going to do a search. So then I'm going to pick, so maybe some of these kids, they're starting to get accepted. So Annie, Justin, Owen, and Barbie have been accepted so far. So then when I come down here to the bottom, I have a couple choices. I can say add to a membership or I can replace a membership. So, what is the difference between these two? So, if I click on add is going to add it to my list up here. And right now I have nothing up there. Okay. So, I'm going to do that and say add and then say add the selected students. So now you can see I have these 4 students, Annie, Justin, Owen, and Barbie. So you'll notice my search criteria, it all disappeared. Okay, so I can search for students again. So I'm just going to click for my 10th grade students and I'm going to hit search. Notice before I hit search, select students by default. In this case, I am not going to check it because I'm picking and choosing what students that I want in this ad hoc membership. If I wanted the entire grade level, I would want this checked because it means it's going to select every single student. If I'm selecting by a homeroom and I want that homeroom all included, I could check that and it would check every single student in there. But in this case, since I'm picking and choosing, I don't want it checked. So I'm just going to hit search again. So now I have some extra kids that are going to get added. We are going to add Dan and Kyra and Tom and Betty. Okay. Now this time, instead of saying add, I'm going to hit replace. Now watch what happens when I hit add students. Okay. So now I'm going to say add selected students. And notice it took out the four that were there and put in Dan, Kyra, Tom, and Betty. Well, I didn't want that to happen. I wanted them to be added in so the list grows longer. So in that case, I'm going to search. Okay. And then I'm going to choose my students, the first four that I had. I'm going to leave it at add students to the membership and say add the selected students. Now my list is growing. So you can see up here that it's growing. Okay. So if you ever make a mistake and you select a student accidentally, you can always click on the little trash can next to their name and it will remove them from the ad hoc membership. So, for example, I'm going to cancel out of here. I am going to look at my private ones and look at Snow White. So we know Snow White has 7 dwarfs. Well, we're looking here at my list and there's only 6 dwarfs in here. So if I click on my show, I'm going to go to my general tab and I am going to find one of my dwarf students. And notice when it populates these kids, they're the students. So I have the 4 or 6 up here. Now I come down here and it's all 7. But notice it doesn't mark off a student that you have. So if you already have Bashful checked, you'll see that Bashful is already up here. Sneezy is my one that I did not have included, but I want to add these to the list. So maybe you didn't know which one, but notice it does not duplicate. So again, it doesn't gray the students out. It doesn't show you which ones are already existing, but if you do select a student that has already been included in that membership, it will not duplicate them and have them listed twice. So, for example, if I did all my dwarf students and I'm like, okay, all 7 of them need to be in there, I could say check, select this by default, hit search, and now you can see all 7 of my students are already selected and then I can add them to my membership. So that's what this box does is it checks them or unchecks them for you because notice there's not a select all box. Okay, so that is your select all box. You have to do it prior to hitting search. So next, and I don't know how often this will be used, is students with IDs. So you can bring in students with IDs. If you have a spreadsheet that student IDs are listed, you can just bring those in. They can either be separated by commas or it could be line by line if you're pulling them in from a spreadsheet. Once you hit search, then it will bring up all of those students' names. You can check them, or if you wanted them checked by default, you can have that done at the beginning. Okay. I'm going to go out of here 1 second. Oh, I should have did that one first. So let me go back 1 second. Let's create a new. So if you have students that are already in a membership, say for example, you have um, 24, 25 boys basketball team, and a majority of those boys are on the basketball team again. So I can say use an existing membership. It's going to allow me to pull in existing memberships that I have access to. Okay. And then it gives me two choices. It says use all students belonging to any of these memberships. So any of those means or. Okay. So if you're looking at these and you're like, okay, what does this mean? This means it could be in this membership, maybe in this one, or in this one. It doesn't matter. As long as they're in one of them, it's going to populate them in the list. Then the next one is use only students belonging to all the selected memberships. That means they have to be in both of these. And if they are not in both of these, they will not populate. Okay, so this one is an or. Okay, so it could be in either or. And this one is it has to be included in all. And. So think of it as or and and. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it on this one. If I hit search, it's going to look for the kids in both of those ad hoc memberships. Notice it defaulted to selecting them by choice, and then I can add them to start creating my new membership if I wanted to. Okay, and I could do that. I'm going to say save. It will create. Oops, I never added them. Sorry. Let me go back to my. Let's try adding them first and then saving. So everything is saved the way I want it to. And then here is my existing memberships. So those are three different ways that you can create your memberships. You saw plenty of ways that you can edit since I've made mistakes. Anytime you click on the pencil, you can go back in. If this is one that you no longer are going to use, you can make it inactive. If it is students that only you're going to deal with, maybe you have multiple hats and you work with the special ed department plus you are the building secretary, so you might have some memberships that are for your special ed students and you don't want everybody to see them. So you can make it private just so you can see it. Okay. So I'm going to make this one inactive. Once I hit save, okay, you can see that it is no longer there. If I uncheck, you can see that this one is now there, but it is inactive. Okay, before we move on, any questions about creating or modifying or adding students into an ad hoc group? So next is what can ad hocs do for you? So we're going to look at our ad hoc updates. We are not going to go through all of these because some of these, again, you might do. So based on your role, whether you're building secretary, your EMIS, your special ed, you might do some of these and somebody else might do some of these. So we're just going to take a look at a few of these. Now, I do want to note that even though these say ad hoc updates and we are going to upload or update things in bulk, not all of these require an ad hoc membership to be created first. Okay. So just think of that. Some of these things we're going to be able to update as a group because it is a temporary thing. So it is not permanent. So it allows us to do it without that actual ad hoc membership. So the first thing and probably the most popular one that is used for our ad hoc updates is updating our student profile. So the student profile bulk update. So if I click on that, this one does require you to have an ad hoc membership. Notice that in my ad hoc, it says ad hoc membership, and I can pick. Or if I check public and private, it's going to show ones that are available to everybody. So if I look here, we're going to look at our Snow White. Okay, remember we had all our dwarfs in there. Okay. We're going to go to next. So you'll notice that looking at some of this stuff, so our student's record, this looks very similar to the student profile, where I can pick their citizenship, their ethnic category, if they require a paper report card. Building progression track is a popular one. And then also down here, my attendance calendar. Okay, so let's look at our dwarf students. So we'll look at Bashful. Oop, we'll go to, so if I look at his profile, okay, so you'll see some of those things that were listed in my student profile update are going to be listed here. Well, these are my students. Maybe they're going to be going to the JVS. So, or maybe they're my seniors. So these are all 12th graders. So I no longer want them on the default calendar. We need to update that from the default to the senior calendar because they get out earlier than everybody else. So instead of going in every senior one by one and changing them, we can do the bulk student profile update. So I'm going to come in here, pick my membership. And we're going to change them from the default calendar to the seniors because they get out early. Okay. Because I am changing the calendar after the start of the school year, it will ask for the effective start date. So we're just going to say that it was today. Don't say it was today if you had a snow day, which most of you did. So this is just my example. Okay. Go on to next. In our annual record, you can see some things in here. I include an honor roll, GPA. You can update their counselor from here. There's also another place you can update their counselor, their student status. So, if you have students that are going to the JVS, you want to switch them from active to your JVS residents. You can have an ad hoc group for those. Maybe you have, middle school students going to the high school. Um, you can create an ad hoc group for those and apply, what their primary building is, etc. Going to go to next, my FS standing and my FD attributes, again from my student profile. Effective today, my admission reason. So again, if these kids are just enrolling, maybe they're coming back from the JVS, whatever it might be. Um, EMIS situation, if you have seniors or you have students that are going out, you're going to take all of those students and have them go out full time. You can update their percent of time. All of this information that you see in that student profile can be updated here. And then now we get into our FD attributes, their state equivalent grade level, their disability conditions. Okay, which now most of us use same goal, so that would be updated as that information is imported. You can create a group for disadvantagement, and then you're free and reduced. Notice that on my FD calendar, I also have my reporting calendar. My attendance calendar and my reporting calendar must match. So if I have my seniors on a 3-day early release calendar, I need to make sure that my reporting calendar is on a 3-day early release calendar. If these mismatch, the student's attendance will not take. It will be zeroed out, even if they have missed days of school. There is an analytic hub report under EMIS that does a comparison of your calendars. So then going to my next tab, my FN attributes. Okay, so um, you'll see some of these things here, such as grade next year. Fiscal year begins. Most of you probably have done this already for your freshmen, but for your freshmen that came in, they're starting for their fiscal year begin You can update those all at once. Remember that if a student gets held back, they stay in their fiscal year begin date. So, if they were supposed to be a sophomore, but they're a freshman again this year, their fiscal year begin was still last year's date. So just be careful with that if you're updating them in bulk. Um, Dyslexia screener, that is also listed here, and then this eventually will disappear once it's removed off the FN tab. And then our FN graduate tab, this is nice that you can update some of this information here because if you go to the FN graduate tab in the student profile, you then have to go to the student exemption screen to update some of these things where you can update a lot of these here. So if they've met their criteria, they're exempted from phys ed grad requirements, could put the graduation date. However, there is another ad hoc update that you can update the graduation date and or diploma type. So you can create an ad hoc membership for students receiving an honors diploma or um, uh, uh, a tech diploma, any of those that are listed in here. You can create ad hoc memberships for those. Okay. And then before we actually apply all these things, it is showing me that I have seven students selected in the Snow White ad hoc membership. And then my review is going to say I'm changing the attendance calendar to the senior calendar. It's effective starting today. And the attendance pattern is going to shift to the 12th grade senior only calendar because the reporting calendar is now the senior calendar. And again, effective starting today. Once I hit submit, I can go back to my students. So everything's been successfully completed. I'll go back to Bashful and look at Bashful. And now if I go to his profile and I look at his attendance calendar, it has been updated to the senior calendar. If I go to my FD attributes and look at my reporting calendar, it should be the 12th grade senior calendar. And then if I wanted to scroll through my students, I can see each of those and they've all been updated. Okay. So again, editing the profile, that is probably the most common used ad hoc update in here, and that one does require having an ad hoc membership. So you'll notice you can update the diploma type. So working in that, you can just update the diploma type versus going through the whole student profile update. So you can do it that way. You can also update the graduation date. So you can bring that in for your active students, maybe your JVS and your non-residents. You can bring that in and update that way. Um, so that's a quick, easy way. This will also produce a file so you can kind of double check the file if you are the one that is adding that graduation date. So we'll just go through. Let's look at let's go back to Bashville real quick. We're going to look at his graduation date and we'll see that that is my fault. I updated it in the play environment, not here. So we'll go with it because we can update that. So this is the wrong information. I updated it. We have a play environment, and that's what I was working in. So we're going to go back to that update, and we will make this work because you'll see how the spreadsheet works. So I want to see my active students, my JVS, and my non-res. So I want a CSV. I'm just going to download it, and I want this to be, let's see, we're going to do May 22nd is going to be the new graduation. Now, you see that there's override existing. So if there is already a date there, it will override with this. If there's not a date there, okay, it will put that, or if I uncheck that, if there is already a date there, it is not going to put this in there. Okay, so we saw that our dwarf students, they do have a date in there. So if I left this unchecked, it would still stay the 2025 date. Okay. Now, what is the difference between verifying and update? So if I verify, and I'm going to leave this unchecked for a minute, if I click on verify and I hit submit, it's going to populate my file. So here are my students. Okay. Any student that has a previous graduation date, you can see that they're all listed here. Okay. So it's showing those, and then it's showing what the new graduation date is going to be. Okay. So verifying is not changing anything. So let's look at my dwarf students. So here are all my dwarf students. Okay. Here is what it was, the 2025, and then here is what it is going to be. So with that being said, if I look at my dwarf students, my student profile, nothing has changed because I was just verifying. So it's still 2025. Now, if I go back, my active, and then I'm going to put that date in again. Okay. I'm going to say override. I'm good with it overriding. I looked at everything. Now I'm going to say updates. Once I click on updates and override is selected, once I hit submit, it's going to show me this file again. It's going to look almost identical to the last one. Oh, wait, it does look identical to the last one. And you're right, it does. So if I scroll down to all my dwarf students, this is what it was, and then this is what it's going to be. Oop, okay. So now if I go look at my students, so I'll go look at my dwarf students, go to his profile. You'll see that it has overridden it with the 2026 date. Okay. So let's look at a few others. Just going to go back a level. So these are all the different ad hoc updates that we can do. And of course, we're not going to go through all of these. Again, this is probably your most popular one. Student membership copy. This is where it will copy memberships from one school year to the next. However, it does not go from building to building. So if I have a student that is gifted in fifth grade and at my district, my building is fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, I can then use the student copy membership and copy it from his fifth grade year. It will copy it and make it active for his sixth grade year because it's the same building. However, I have a fifth grade student who's gifted, and now they are moving, that was at the elementary school. Now they are moving to the middle school. Because it is a change of buildings, it will not allow you to copy the membership. So, and it is very simple. Um, so if I look at Coriander, oops, and I want to look at just look at his memberships here. Okay, so he's taking honors classes this year and he's bilingual. Okay, so if I go into the 26-27 school year, which he has not been promoted yet, I can then copy these. So because they don't copy up every year, then once these students have been promoted, again, I have not promoted my students, I would be able to do a student membership copy, pick which ones that I wanted. So if it was my gifted services, if there was any to copy up, it would copy those memberships, but I don't have a student in context. So sometimes the EMIS person does that, sometimes the building people do that. So it just all depends on who is in charge of that. Another ad hoc update that we use quite a bit is our student fee assignment. So if you're adding to a group of students, so it might be for example, I had one for parking passes. So students with a parking pass, they might get a fee added to their account. So instead of searching for all those students individually, if I have an ad hoc membership of those students that have parking permits, then I can add my miscellaneous fee. I would skip it, whatever that fee might be. Oh, okay. And it's for a parking permit, and then maybe it's $15. And then I can add it to that group of kids. And you can see it's going to be included. So students to process, 14. I'm not going to go through and finish that, but you can do student fees that way. Other ad hoc updates that are very popular at the beginning of the school year are bulk assigning counselors. We had a lot of new guidance counselors this year, so changing from one counselor to another, you can do that in bulk. So you can pick that. You can pick by homeroom. You can do it randomly, you can do it manually, etc. So just depending on how, notice that I don't have to pick a specific ad hoc membership in order to do this. I don't think I have any. Oh, I do. Okay. And then who the counselor would be, and I can update them that way. This is very popular at my elementary levels. So let me switch to my elementary school. Is bulk assigning homerooms. Sometimes at the high school level or middle school level, we don't always have homerooms because sometimes their homeroom is their first period class. So they're not assigned an official homeroom teacher. But if I'm at my elementary level, okay, full year, okay, these are my students that are already in this homeroom. Okay. So if I need to remove a student, I can remove a student if I needed to. So maybe Speedy or Eli is no longer in this group. I can remove him, but then maybe I need to add somebody. I can add, I can search for that student by student ID or another homeroom. And again, notice that as I'm searching for these, so maybe, let's see, so if I needed to add him back because I accidentally removed him, I can check him, add the selected student, and now he'll be back into my homeroom. So if I go back to Mrs. Snowday, there's Eli back into my homeroom. So, and a lot of times, when creating single homerooms, and there's a whole training session on this, but you can go through and check off the ones that you need because you're going to search by grade level. So if I want to search all my third grade students, I can say preview, and then I can just start checking all the students that I need. Okay. So again, just looking at some of these, we're not going to go through all of them, but you can see that there are advantages to using the ad hoc memberships. Some of these require that actual ad hoc membership. Some of them do not. They'll allow you to do it in bulk. And that's why a lot of these just say bulk. Let's look at some other things that we can do with our ad hoc memberships, such as using the easy query. So if I go into Easy Query, one of our most popular in here is using our SIS student search. This allows us to look at a group of students where we can either break it down by a specific, We can break it down by specific areas, or we can search by an ad hoc group. Okay. So if I wanted to look at my dwarf students again, so I'll pick my Snow White. I'm going to say next. I'm not going to change anything else here. I don't, want to filter by addresses or anything like that. I'm going to go next so I can pick the criteria that I want to see or to select. First name, last name. Maybe I want to see their birth date. Um, I want to see their grade level. You can pick addresses, EMIS situations. Maybe I want to make sure that they have the right calendar selected. I can do that. The EMIS tab is going to have your um, like your FD attributes, all of that stuff that we could update in bulk. All that information is going to be here as well. So I just want to make sure they're on the correct reporting calendar. My attendance calendar is in here. And then we'll go to next to look at the summary. It's going to show me everything that's going to be a part of it. And then I can download my file. Um, let's try that again. Oops. Let's do our parking permits. No, I want to go back to my Snow White. First name, last name, and we'll just do grade level. Let's see if that'll go through. I'm not sure what is going on. I know I had a problem with them. I think I have to pick a different group. But a good thing, I know a lot of people don't use this. There is the transportation tab that allows you to put in information. So you could put in the make, model, license plate of a student. And then if you have the criteria in here, you have it set. You can, pick your students that have the parking permits. And then pick their name, and then you have the transportation tab in here. So maybe you want, or maybe what parking permit you're giving them, and what license plate, etc. And, and then I don't think it's going to work, but I'm not sure. I've done it like 10 times and it works, and then I'm recording and it doesn't work. So, okay, transcripts. Transcripts is another one. We run these all the time. So when you're looking at transcripts, if you have your load settings, you have them already. Oh, I know why. I'm at the elementary level. Let's go back 1 second. Oh, building grade. Now they should populate. Or not. Okay. I don't know what I did. So let's look at our transcripts. So I am at the high school level. I'm looking at my load settings. If you don't have load settings, if you do have something created, you can see I have one with seals, one without seals. Um, but I want to get that load setting in place, and so it picks the correct report layout, etc. But as you're going through, you can have everything selected, but maybe you want to print transcript for the JVS students, the seniors, because you want to send those to the homeschool. Okay, so you would pick all your stuff would be picked based on your load settings, but then as you come down, instead of having to put in student IDs, etc., I could pick my JVS seniors. And then it would just print those JVS seniors and it would populate those transcripts for those students. Okay. The ad hoc membership is going to take precedence over the grade. So if you're just trying to, if you put in, 11th and 12th grade, if your ad hoc membership only has 12th grade, it will only print those 12th graders. So I'll submit this. It'll take a second to create. We'll let that run here for a second. So another one is our R700. So a lot of these reports you're familiar with, but you probably didn't realize that as you're working with them, that they do allow you to um, uh, print by ad hoc groups. So maybe you have, sports and you want, maybe it's again, maybe it's the wrestling team and the coach is not in the district. So you want to print off the report cards for those students for that coach. So you have an ad hoc membership for all the wrestlers. You can pick that group here and then it would just print out those students. Okay. And you can see it would override my student IDs. It would go by my ad hocs. Okay. So again, that is down towards the bottom where I can pick my ad hoc memberships. And remember, every place that you have the option to use an ad hoc membership, you can select the public and private, and that will bring up the entire list. So schedule cards is another one that you can use ad hoc memberships with. So that's your R701. So your schedule card 6 does show your fees, etc. But instead of trying to create all this selection criteria and picking the grade levels, if you already have that ad hoc membership created, so maybe for my 2027 kids, that would be my juniors this year, I want to just print for those. I already have the ad hoc created. I don't have to worry about picking up here, picking the counselor, anything like that. I can just pick my ad hoc membership here. It's going to overwrite that stuff and I can run it for those students. I don't know if I really have anything in there for them. And then the last one that I want to show you is the R303. So that is your honor roll report. So notice this one is right at the beginning. Okay. And then notice it says if you're not limiting it to an ad hoc membership group, they say group here. I think they should call it a group. Then you have to pick your selection criteria. If you are using your ad hoc membership, it's going to pick grade level, etc. But you would still need to pick your GPA set, honor roll, etc. Okay, so this is great if you wanted to just run this for your JVS students to give to your JVS. Okay, or example, the JVS could run it for their homeschool and give it to their homeschool so they can see where they're at. I know we only have a couple minutes here. Just a few other things that I want to touch base on. So another thing that you can do is you can do a bulk transfer. Um, So if I wanted to do a bulk transfer, so my 10th graders, they've been accepted at the JVS. I want to transfer them to the JVS. I can do the bulk transfer. Notice it requires a ad hoc membership. So that's why I keep talking about the JVS students and so forth. But some of these that you can do in bulk with updating their calendars, transferring them, etc., do require that ad hoc membership group. So if that is created for those students, you can do all these. I'm not going to go through the whole process of this, but say these are my students that are going to be going next year. Um, Mark the students available in the 26-27 school year, which we have not done SYI, so it wouldn't even work yet. But say they're going to go to the Wayne County Career Center. I would pick the JVS. They would go to the Career Center building, and then I would do my bulk transfer. Okay. But again, this is a required field. So again, having that information for those JVS students is great. And making sure that it is public so your other people in your building can also see those students, whether they're adding, maybe you have a kid last minute that changes his mind, doesn't want to go to the JVS, decides to stay at the homeschool. You update your membership, it updates it for everybody as long as it's public. Okay. And then one more item. I know we throw around the word membership a lot because we have ad hoc memberships. We have our membership codes that we have. We have membership fees that we can apply. Um, so there's a lot of uses of the word membership, but like with the ad hoc memberships, I call those groups because we can apply different things to groups. Um, so we talked um, about copying the memberships from year to year. So that was one thing that you might do, you might not do, um, is copying those from one to the next. But there's also something called student membership copy. So this is a little bit different. So no, this one's, sorry, this is the one that copies from year to year. It will not go to building. Let's go back one, this one. See, I get confused with the memberships and the copies. Nope, that was the same one I was just at. I want the copy membership to membership. Once I see the screen, I'll remember. So the difference is one copies from year to year, student to student. Okay, so if the student was gifted in fifth grade, you want the same gifted code for sixth grade, etc. Okay, if that's the case. Where this copy ad hoc membership to membership, um, so say we're looking at we'll say our students here. Okay, and then we're going to next. Okay. This is allowing us to, for this group of students, so this ad hoc membership, I can apply a specific membership group, okay, or membership code, I should say. So that's again, that's where it gets confusing because we're using the word ad hoc membership and we're copying them to a membership group, which sometimes is called a program code. It's a membership code. Okay, so these are our basics. So we have our special education, we have our gifted, we have our sports. If you have biliteracy, if your school district has preschool, so those are the common ones. So if this is going to be my, wrestling group, we'll just say, and then it's going to say, well, what membership do you want to add it to? And I could pick wrestling and then for what school year. Okay. So again, you would create your membership group. So maybe that's all of your baseball players. And then you would say, okay, all my baseball players, I want to add them to baseball. And then you would hit copy and it would create that membership code, program code for those students. Hopefully that makes sense. So this one is using your ad hoc membership to actually assign a program code membership to a student, where the other one is copying the student membership from school year to school year. So it would be that student who already had that membership. Maybe they're a speech student, maybe they're, some type of other service related service that they're getting. They're going to copy from year to year. This one's going from year to year, not between buildings. And this one's actually assigning the membership program code. Okay. And sometimes, again, you might not be the person that is doing that. Um, it might be somebody else, but I just want to make sure that you are aware that those are there and using some of the same terminology. With that being said, are there any questions on ad hocs or how they can be used? So next, looking at our easy query, our most popular area is our SIS student search. So if I go there, it allows me to filter the criteria by all kinds of different areas, or I can use my ad hoc membership. So if I use my ad hoc membership, it's going to pull in all of those students, and then I can pull in what I want to view. So I'm going to click on next. I want first name, last name, and then I want to see maybe their parking permit number. So as I'm giving them parking permits on their student profile, there's a transportation tab. I can put their permit number, maybe their license plate, and I want a spreadsheet of this. So I'm just going to pull in this information, and then I can hit next to see the summary. It's going to show that I'm using first name, last name, going to pull in their parking permit number and their license plate. So I can download this as a CSV file, hit finish, and it's going to populate a spreadsheet for me. So if I look at that, so now I can see my students, first name, last name, anybody that has a parking permit number, and then their license plate number. And I can see here, I skipped over skip. So I would know that that information is not in his student profile.